Friday nights with you here at the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you being here for the best in discussion, debate, and analysis. You're probably nodding off, so I just thought I'd wake you up, or maybe wake me up. Appreciate you being there in the chat. We'll get to the comments and questions. We'll take your calls as well, because you guys drive this show. This is the reason we're here, is to talk to you, because I could pontificate on college football day and night all the time. Maybe not as much as I once could for many reasons, but still a lot to say about college football from me, but we want to hear from you. I will mention I would love to hear from some new folks tonight. So if you've never called, please do. You will have all the time you want within reason. If you rarely call, you've got all the time you want within reason. And for you long timers, frequent timers, get here if you want. I'm going to make it quick with you. We love you. Appreciate it. You're the backbone of what we do here. You keep us going and all those good things. So understand that I appreciate you, but we hear from you all the time. So anybody else, please step up and we will talk college football, of course. Couple fairly important games when you consider Washington's record in the Big Ten. Don't count them out. They only have the one loss. So Rutgers continues to play well early and fade. You know what this tells me? This tells me that Rutgers is well coached. They've got a good game plan. They prepare well. They're ready for Saturday, in this case, Friday night. And they come out against Iowa. Great game plan against Phil Parker's defense. They execute, but once there are adjustments, and your counter to that may be, well, Mark, really good coaches and coaching staffs adjust. Granted, but when you've got inferior talent to most of the teams that you're playing, which Rutgers does, then I think we're starting to see a trend in results. And if we go back to Greg Schiano, as we learned tonight, did he catch the beginning of the broadcast? Greg Schiano, many of us have been mispronouncing this for 20 years. Greg Schiano, like piano. Greg Schiano. I think we would find a trend. You know, Rutgers got trampled for however many years in the Big Ten, from 2014 until he showed up in 2020. Just trampled, just abused, just a complete embarrassment. He shows up, really good coach, pulls it together, tightens things up, technique, fundamentals, strength and conditioning, all those things get buttoned up. The talent, better, still nothing close to mid-tier in the Big Ten. I shouldn't say it's not close. It's not mid-tier level Big Ten talent, but they show up. Look at the offensive numbers that they put together against Iowa in the first quarter a couple weekends ago on a Friday night. Couple touchdowns, looked great throwing the football, 21 points in the first half, throwing the ball all over Phil Parker's defense, then shut down. Minnesota last week, 14-0 lead. Lose at 31-28. And then tonight they go up 10-0. They look great early. And now the last I saw was 24-13. Washington had just scored and put up actually those 10 points in the second half to go up 24-13. Or maybe it was 2 touchdowns in the second half. Yeah, 13-10, 24-13 Washington. And keep in mind that Washington lost to the number 1 team in the country by 18 points. Really good football game, 1-score game, roughly second half into the fourth quarter. 7-3, 14-3, 14-6. And came back on the road against Maryland last weekend to win 24-20 at the gun, down 20-0, came back and won that game, traveling 3 time zones. I'll get to that in just a second. Now we see Washington tonight. This is at home. No excuses. Get down 10-0, come back and lead 24-13. Game not over, but you would expect that Washington's a better football team than Rutgers. But it's been a decent game. And I was going to wait until the completion, but no, did not want to wait another hour and 15 or 20 minutes. So here we are with all of you. Appreciate you being here. If you're watching on Twitter, we're going to cut you off like right now. So if you're watching on X/Twitter, whatever you want to call it, we are going to get you to come on here to YouTube. You can join in the chat that way. That's the best part of the show. Join the chat. If you're watching on Facebook, same thing. So you folks on Twitter, thanks for being here. We're here every night, 10 p.m. Eastern time, except if there's a big game, not necessarily a huge game, but a Power 4 conference game. Then we show up typically after the game, or if I feel like it, before the game is over. So we are no longer on X. You people on X? And that's probably most of the audience. I'm guessing there's only like 80 people watching right now. That's pathetic. But there's only like 80 people watching right now. And I'm guessing like 70 or 65 of you are on X. And that's terrible too. So join us on YouTube. Okay, you're gone. And we will continue from there. Which leads me to, when I say pathetic, I was checking out some numbers by accident as I was doing some things on the channel tonight, comparing some numbers from 2025, August, September, October numbers in 2025 versus I just randomly selected 2021. Pitiful, pitiful, pitiful. We are the, well, Clemson wasn't any good in 2021 either, really, not championship level, but I will make that comparison some other time. All right, let's get to the scores, and then we will go through what is lined up for Saturday. And yeah, only like 25 folks here, so get out in your neighborhood right now. Run outside. It's probably beautiful out there. It's like 75 degrees out there. Run out there. Wake everybody up. Get them out of bed. Bring them over to your house. Gather around wherever you watch us. Take your phone out there. Talk some college football on a Friday night. Hit some people up on social media. Share the video. Do all those good things. So do appreciate everyone. Not going to read everybody's name, but thank you so much for being here. MCATS has warned us about the Hawaii kicker. Going to put a lot of stuff in the chat about him. Hey, I will take that warning over other warnings that you could be sending down about what you would put in the chat. So, hey, appreciate you smashing the like button. Again, MCATS, Rough Rider, Tukey G, and others. Let's get to the scoreboard. All right. All right. Rutgers putting up a fight. They must have just scored a touchdown, probably going, what happened here with the extra point? I don't know. So somebody's going to have to fill me in. Rutgers either went for 2, possibly. It's only third quarter. Why they would do that? If Rutgers went for 2, take everything back that I said about Greg Schiano being a really good head coach. Shouldn't have gone for 2 if they went for 2. Or they missed the extra point. Regardless, 24-19. Washington with the football at midfield. 7 minutes left in the third quarter. Still a ball game. Washington about a 2-touchdown favorite in this game. Fresno State and Colorado State. Rams lead 35-21. Fresno State looking to go to 6-1. Will need a comeback tonight. Nobody really counting Fresno State in that group of 5 mix to get to the college football playoff. Who they're counting in would be South Florida. South Florida pummels North Texas 63-36. I watched the very beginnings of this game, like the first 3 or 4 drives. There were fumbles and interceptions all over the place, which makes for some fun football. Fumbles, interceptions. The North Texas quarterback, Mastetter, is that his name? Threw his first interception of the season. South Florida, again, they turned it over a few times early. As you see, only 1 touchdown in the first quarter, and then they really exploded after that. 63-36. So South Florida 5-1 with just a win, just a loss against Miami. So Memphis, I know, getting a lot of FPI love for the Group of 5 spot, but keep in mind we got South Florida, which I believe does play. We're not going to carve through the Group of 5 schedules. We did that sometime last week, and there's about 4 or 5 really big games coming up in the next few weeks, including Tulane and Memphis. And then South Florida in one of those two, and on and on and on. You got North Texas still in play, even though they've got one loss now at 5-1. They still could work their way back into it. They would obviously, or most likely, need to win the rest of their games and a conference champion. You would think that the conference champion is simply going to be the Group of 5 rep, the American Conference winner with the strength of this conference. You've got good football teams in Navy, Memphis, South Florida, Tulane, North Texas. And what I found to be an odd comment from Andre Ware doing the South Florida, North Texas game. This was the first or second drive of the game. And it was like 3rd and 10 in the North Texas. Tight end dropped the ball. Would have been a first down. Just boxed it, just horrendous positioning of his hands to try to catch the football. Looked like he'd never caught a football in his life. Drilled right down the middle, right on his frame, and he just kind of did one of those deals, almost like threw it to the ground. And Andre Ware said, Trey Williams, you just don't see that out of him. And I thought, oh, I don't know who this guy is. He must be a really good player. You never see this out of him. He just dropped a pass. Like, we're speaking about him like he's Jerry Rice or Chris Carter. I look him up. He's a freshman. He's caught 9 passes. This is his first season. He has 9 career receptions. Okay. So it's like, what is he talking about? So not to pick on Andre Ware, one of the all-time greats with the Heisman Trophy, but he at times says things, and I don't know that he knows what he's talking about. He knows the game of football, obviously, but I mean that I think he's just talking sometimes. MCAT says, Mark, you should see the setup we have at my house on a Saturday morning. It's chaos. David says, Rutgers went for a 2-point conversion to make it a 3-point game and failed. So I understand the logistics of doing that. It's still a dumb thing to do. There's not 3 minutes left in the game. There's 8 minutes left in the third quarter. So what happens here is, for example, and I could give you like 48 different examples. So instead of down 4, they're down 5. Well, again, when there's 40 seconds left in the game, that doesn't matter. But when there's 23 minutes left in the game, okay, you're down 4 versus 5. So if Washington kicks a field goal, you're down 8, not 7. Or if they score a touchdown and kick a field goal, you're down 12 instead of 11, where 2 possessions isn't going to get it done now because you're down by 12 instead of 11. You could make up all sorts of scenarios. Basically, don't chase points. Don't chase points until you need to late in the game. I don't understand that. Tony's here. Hey there, Mark. Go Ducks. Strange things happen on Fridays. Do they? I guess. Oh, David, if you're not a baseball purist, I hope you're not a baseball purist with that comment, because that's showing you're not a baseball purist. We don't need ghost runners in baseball. That's the stupidest thing in the world. Ghost runners, conjured up, contrived situations that are made up. How did the ghost runner get there? Nobody earned a spot on second base. Nobody was walked and stole second. Nobody got to second base in any such way to get there. Horrendous, horrendous, horrendous. And again, bingo. What did I just say? Washington scores to go up by 12 instead of 11. 3 scores. I'm sorry. With a field goal included, it would be, you'd need the 3rd score. I just think that's chasing points. Shouldn't chase points. Don't chase points. But if they get it, it's 31-21. Totally get it. I get it that it's one of those things. If you get it, then you applaud it and say that helps. If you don't get it, but I just don't believe in chasing points until the game dictates it. David says, I'm a lifelong Yankees fan. It is a runner for making an out. I don't know what that means. There's an out? They put a runner at second base with 1 out? Is that what they do? It's still a contrived situation. Nobody made it out. Nobody's made it to second base. It's a stupid, stupid rule. It's beyond moronic. I understand why it's done. They want to push across a run to end the game. But it's not. It's making things up. I think it's even worse than putting the ball at the 25-yard line for overtime, which it's worked. It's been okay. It's been fine. And obviously, just as long as each team is the same situation, it's fair. But in football, for example, when they went with the 25-yard line, I thought, okay, well, first of all, you have now taken the role of the field goal kicker and elevated his status exponentially, especially if you have 2 good defensive teams playing, because you're at the 25-yard line, and right then you've got a 42-yard field goal, which is still a difficult field goal, but in the past has been a really difficult field goal if you can't move the ball. So you have placed the game in the hands of the kicker many more times than you would have otherwise. So you have emphasized the place kicker in overtime previously, and now you've basically gimmicked it up by doing this 2-point play, which, again, I understand the defenses get tired and the offenses have a huge advantage, and we got what we got 5 years ago or so, Joe Burrow and company against Kellen Mond in Texas A&M, 74-72. Shoot, I was around ESPN and worked the night of the Arkansas-Kentucky and then the Arkansas-Ole Miss, whatever those were, 63-61 and 54-52 or whatever they were. 8 overtimes, 7 overtimes, when they were actual overtimes played from the 25-yard line. So I get why they're doing that. I just don't like contrived situations. Let's take your calls and run through Saturday's games. And as usual, you got me for an hour. If you would like me for more, you can certainly make that happen. All right. Or maybe less than an hour, considering we have delivered way over an hour per show this week. All right, let's get to Saturday's schedule. got to make my picks. Check them out on Patreon or as a premium member here on YouTube. You get my picks. 66 and 41 against the spread. You can just get those for 1 week. You don't have to commit for the entire month any longer on Patreon. You can just get them for the week. Matt Zemek's 12-pack. Corey Braddis 12-pack. Steve Dace's 12-pack. Steve Merrill. I got to contact Steve Merrill. Oh, glad I brought that up. Glad I remembered our buddy Steve Merrill. So we will have an under the radar selection from Steve Merrill. And again, 12 packs from Corey Braddis, Steve Dace, and Matt Zemek. Then my picks as well. 66 and 41 against the spread. 119 and 24 straight up. Do we have the games on the screen? No, we don't. For as much as I love college football and for as much as I love watching the games on Saturday, of course, man, I got so many thoughts going through my mind about the offseason. So many thoughts about what we may do with the voice of college football here on the main channel and what this could become. It is exciting. It is exciting. You're not going to recognize this place. Okay. I'm going to make this quick work if nobody calls here. Ohio State, Illinois, Buckeyes, a 14-point favorite. Last played Illinois. It's been a few years, like 5 years since they played Illinois. They beat, I think, JT Barrett and company 52-14. So that was back in like 2017. I don't believe that they've played since then. Buckeyes last loss to Illinois at the Shoe, or period, was at the Shoe in 2007. Juice Williams and company. We talked about that game on the Buckeye show this week, where Illinois made a remarkable. Their final drives of that game were just incredible from a time management standpoint. You got to look it up. Alabama, Missouri. We've broken down Ohio State and Illinois all week, so check out the various shows this week. Alabama, Mizzou, they have plenty of coverage on the Alabama channel concerning Bama and Mizzou. Tied a 3.5-point favorite on the road. Love how Ty Simpson's playing. Love it. He is a legitimate Heisman candidate, and he is a fun watch if you love just technician quarterback play. But this is not going to be an easy one for the Tide on the road in Columbia, noon Eastern time. So those are the two games I'm going to be watching first and foremost. Pitt at Florida State. Florida State suddenly after this big Alabama win, they are basically out of it in the ACC. They're done. What are they playing for? The Gator Bowl or whatever. Pitt's got one loss in the conference to Louisville, so they're technically still alive. Nobody expects them to make a run, but they got to go to Florida State and win this game, obviously. And the point spread in that game is 10.5. Suddenly, rejuvenated, revitalized UCLA comes all the way back east. And I got a stat for you. I was working on this tonight during the game. I'm watching Rutgers and Washington thinking, okay, this is one of those 3 time zone deals that we've been talking about over and over and over and over and over. People are making such a big deal about it. Okay, I added up all the 3 time zone games in the Big Ten since this business started. And this is what we've got. And I did not look up all the point spreads. I just simply looked up the games. Well, most of these I came up with off the top of my head, but here they are. 3 time zone games, because we talked about this ad nauseum about, does it matter? Is it a big advantage? Is it deciding games? We only have a handful here in 2025. Of course, we've got one tonight. So Ohio State beat Washington on the road. UCLA beat Penn State at home. And so those are the teams from the Eastern time zones traveling west. We've got a split right now. And it looks like Washington's going to win. They're up by 12. Game's not over, but we're going to have a 2-1 record if the Huskies hold on. 2-1 for the home team this year for the West Coast teams, holding serve. And then we've got 2 games with the West Coast coming 3 time zones east. That's Washington with a big comeback against Maryland last Saturday, and USC beat Purdue. So we've got actually the Eastern time zone teams, the home teams are 0-2 in those games. Now, last year, you've got all these games. You got the first group of games are the West Coast teams at home, and Penn State won at USC, and Indiana won at UCLA at the Rose Bowl. The other West Coast teams won their home games against the 3 time zone traveling team. And then you've got the lower list is the East Coast teams playing at home against teams traveling from the West Coast. And you see the numbers there. If Washington holds on to win, the home teams in these scenarios are 13-8. East Coast teams are 13-8. I'm sorry, not the East Coast teams. The home teams are 13-8 if Washington wins tonight, 12-8 going into tonight. And to really give a deep dive, you got to go through the point spreads and who was the favorite. And if it really factored into it, Penn State UCLA would be the biggest outlier of, okay, was that a factor in the game? Because we had a 25-point underdog win at home against a team that traveled that far. No excuses. I'm not talking about making excuses, just if this is any kind of factor. So 12-8 for the home team. So to me, that's proving nothing. That's inconsequential. 12-8 for the home teams. That's 60%. You would think that the home team wins about 60% of the time in the Big Ten anyway. We can go through that exercise as well to see what is the home field advantage throughout college football, and specifically here in the Big Ten. The only other conference where we would have, well, now we've got, of course, we also have to look at the ACC, where we've got Cal and Stanford, and then we've got all the East Coast teams. So we would only have, though, Cal and Stanford to look at. And then we would have, of course, I think Utah, they are not on the West Coast. So they're only 2 time zones from the East Coast. So we would only be looking at Arizona, Arizona State. Yes, Utah and Colorado in the Mountain time zone. So only Arizona, Arizona State versus Cincinnati, UCF, West Virginia in the Big 12. So the games are very limited in the other conferences. Not as many as in the Big 10, where you've got 4 West Coast teams and you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Eastern time zone teams in the Big 10. Super chat. Always appreciate that. David, thank you so much for your contribution. That is so kind of you. Mark, have a hot chocolate and fill us in on the voice of college football. If you're talking about what I alluded to earlier, David, I don't know how long you've been around. I don't believe it's that long. And so you've made your presence known, David, because you are a tremendous supporter. So thank you for that. We do this every off season. We do something called the State of the Voice of College Football, where I sit here for 2 hours, 3 hours, 5 hours, however long it takes to cover everything on the network. And that is going to be a barn burner this year, because we will make and have to make major changes, bigger changes than we've ever had before. We will need to make and will make of some fashion. I've got all sorts of ideas. What's the term? They're not marinating, they're ruminating up there. All right, so that's my research during the Rutgers-Washington game. Back to Saturday's games. But David, I do appreciate your interest. But in due time, sir. In due time. For a long time, I was interested to get people's take on how long they've been watching, why they started watching, and then also who is their favorite team and why is it their favorite team? So 4 questions. How long you've been watching, when you started watching. Those would be the 2 same things. Number 1, when you started watching, how you started watching, and then who's your favorite team and why are they your favorite team and since when? And then send those to me at MarkRogersTV at Gmail. And we were tallying up our fan base numbers. We did this a few years ago. How many people root for Michigan? How many people root for Ohio State? How many people root for Rutgers, Nebraska? Every team in the country. That was quite interesting. We probably got about 1,000 responses. And I would love to add to that. So if you care to do that, MarkRogersTV at Gmail. Do not leave those in the chat because I will not see them there. They will be whisked away at some point soon. But hit me up at MarkRogersTV at Gmail. Again, how long you've been watching, why you started watching, how you started watching, what team you root for, and how long you've been a fan of your team. And give me whatever story that you would like. But David, thank you so much for that. Stanford at SMU. SMU still with no losses in the ACC. People are not considering SMU. They got a goose egg in the loss column in the ACC, correct? They lost to TCU. They lost to Baylor. UCF Cincinnati. Cincinnati may have something to say in the Big 12. Wins against Kansas and Iowa State for Cincinnati. Houston looked horrible against Texas Tech, but still, it's only 1 loss for Houston. So we're at that point in the season where it's still kind of interesting. Still kind of interesting with certain teams that still have a chance. And people don't expect, like, nobody expects Houston to win the Big 12 or Cincinnati to win the Big 12, but now, at 3:30. Wow, at 3:30. I would not mind watching this Malik Washington play at Maryland against Nebraska, but no, Indiana, Oregon, Oklahoma, Texas. That is 3:30 for me. Those are my 2 3:30 games. That's what I'm watching. That's who I'm watching, period. Unless we get a 42-6 game in the third quarter and I move on to something else. Those are my 2 games. I can only watch 2 games at once. My attention span cannot do any better than that. Although I do have a third screen to go to a third game when they're in commercial. Even though TCU and Kansas State could be interesting. TCU, of course, we're kind of counting out Kansas State out of the Big 12. They've lost 2 games in the conference, 3 games overall, but TCU very much in play. But that's going to be a difficult trip for TCU to go to Manhattan. Kansas State is going to be a serious spoiler, I would expect, the rest of this season. Then we've got that unusual 4:15 kick, Arkansas at Tennessee. Sam Pittman out of a job, Bobby Petrino taking over. Then in prime time. So I clearly have 2 games, but this is not real easy for me. But I'm going to watch Georgia, Auburn, Michigan, USC. Although this Florida, Texas A&M game, that interests me. That interests me quite a bit. Iowa, Wisconsin, sorry, that's like the fifth choice. No, I'd rather watch Kansas and Texas Tech. I almost rather watch Purdue and Minnesota. So there's a lot of options. There, South Carolina and LSU. There's a lot of options in primetime. Look at this lineup, primetime. Now, there are really no just massive, there are no Ohio State, Penn State games or Georgia, Alabama kind of games in primetime. But Florida, Texas A&M, Iowa, Wisconsin, Kansas, Texas Tech, Georgia, Auburn, Michigan, USC, Purdue, Minnesota, Clemson, Boston College. I know it falters from there, but South Carolina, LSU. I like primetime. Then there's this huge game and a huge storyline in the Big 12 late night with Utah hosting Arizona State. No Sam Leavitt for Arizona State. Jeff Sims will get the call, former Georgia Tech starting quarterback and Nebraska starting QB against Utah on the road. Rice-Eccles Stadium, one of the more difficult places to play in college football. Utah was a 5.5-point favorite. I'm sure that is ballooned a bit, I would think. Charles believes in trap games. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but nobody has ever proven the trap game theory. Tony says 2021 Voice of College Football right before the Oregon at Ohio State game. I don't know what that means, but sure. Charles says, I miss your SEC channel with Kenneth. We had a consistent crew that tuned in for him, and they were good. Wrap-up shows on Saturdays late. Charles, thank you so much for the compliment. I'm sure Kenneth would appreciate that. Unfortunately, nobody watched it. Mark, I remember you doing the statistics with the USC great in mind. I'm really poor at interpreting texts if they're not clear. And so that probably makes me a poor interpreter of comments in the chat as well. Look at that. Jackson has dug out the 2025 February 24th edition there of the State of the Voice of College Football. There you go, David. There's some good late night viewing for you. Yes, I think it's a great slate of games. And Jackson, thanks for reminding everyone if you want to keep me around tonight. If not, I know what I should do is go to bed, get some sleep. I've gotten into a bad habit recently of staying up really, really late, which that's been my life. But I corrected that for about 5 or 6 months. Was getting up at 7 a.m., going to bed at a reasonable time, midnight, 1 a.m., something in that range, 1 a.m., getting up at 7 a.m. sharp every day. And now it's become more like going to bed at 4 in the morning, getting up at, I'm pushing that alarm to like 8:15. I got to get up at 8:15 based on my other work situation. I really need to be up by 8:15. Yes, for years and years and years, since October 2020, I could brag that this was it. This was it for the Voice of College Football. This was my passion, my love, my labor of love, and this is all I did because that's all I did. But now we got to pay some bills. So we hit the wall and we got to pay some bills, and so this gets a second priority, or maybe a third or fourth. All right, folks, we do appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. I will be here with instant analysis, and I watch and take note of 2 games every broadcast window, but I've not been delivering those because what happens is the noon games slide into about 4 p.m. Eastern time. And by the time I gather up my notes, I record the video, I edit, upload, do all those things, it's like halftime of the 3:30 games. And so I don't feel like doing the other record for the noon instant analysis, because then I'm going to miss more of the 3:30 games. So then I watch the 3:30 games, but they're already halftime, and I try to catch up with them and try to watch them in full. Can't do that. And then the primetime games, I used to do instant analysis and make you guys wait after the games to do the call-in show. And I have not done that recently, but those instant analysis videos usually do pretty well. So maybe I'll get myself disciplined tomorrow and do 6 of those. And then I will be 25 minutes after the primetime games here, roughly midnight, with the big call-in show. All right, folks. Appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. That should do it. Nobody called. We will see you on Saturday night.